Nigeria aspires to be among the top 20 economies by 2020, according to the Economic Policy Vision of Vision 2020. And shipping is expected to play an important role in this, since shipping can be a very lucrative enterprise. But the CBN governor recently said that Nigeria is losing almost 2 trillion naira yearly to foreign ship owners in cargo haulage. This is in spite of the Coastal and Inland Shipping Act, otherwise known as the Cabotage Act, which has done precious little to build indigenous capacity in shipping. The Cabotage Act was enacted in 2003 in order to restrict the use of foreign vessels in domestic coastal trade, to increase indigenous tonnage, to establish a cabotage vessel financing fund, and for related matters. Put simply, the act was designed to stop foreign vessels from lifting crude or other cargoes within Nigeria's territorial waters, while making jobs available for vessels owned and managed by Nigerians and Nigerian indigenous shipping lines. However, 14 years down the line, there continue to be stories about how the agencies in charge have tried to make it work without success, and excuses about why the laws cannot work. Former Interior Minister Captain Emmanuel Iheanacho is an investor in the maritime and oil and gas sectors, and he and I will be discussing these and other issues. And I want to thank him very much for joining us. Thank you, Captain Iheanacho, for joining us on View from the Top.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
And I thank you for tuning in. Here is a brief biography of my guest before our conversation. Emmanuel Iheanacho was born on 22nd November 1952. He got a Master of Science degree in International Transport from the University of Wales, United Kingdom, and a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Bradford. He joined the Nigerian Merchant Navy in 1972 and retired from the NNSL in 1990. Captain Iheanacho is Executive Chairman of Genesis Worldwide Shipping Company and Chairman of Integrated Oil and Gas Limited. A member of the Chartered Institute of Transport, he was at various times Executive Secretary of the Nigerian Shipping Companies Association and Vice President of the Indigenous Ship Owners Association of Nigeria. Captain Iheanacho was Nigerian Minister of Interior between 2010 and 2011 and was governorship candidate for Imo State in 2015. Let me start with the Cabotage Act. Some experts have said that that act was built on almost nothing. Says the vessels that will be engaged in coastal trade must be owned, built, manned, and registered in Nigeria. Was this an act that was effectively dead on arrival?
Yeah, the Cabotage Act is a very, very good concept. Really, the idea is that most maritime nations of the world protect their domestic fleet by promulgating laws that restrict access to the domestic market. We have to be very clear which market we're talking about. We're talking about the market for lifting goods from one Nigerian port to another Nigerian port. Unfortunately, the provision of the waiver clause in the Cabotage Act has created an entry point for a lot of foreign vessel owners who now manipulate the system by getting waivers, and instead of actually ceding that market to Nigerian ship owners, they themselves now monopolize that business to the exclusion of Nigerian interests. As
you mentioned now, most of the foreign ship owners are hiding under the provision of the waiver clause in the cabotage law to enjoy the lifting of crude and use foreign crew instead of employing Nigerians. That is not the fault of the law per se, is it? This is a human problem.
Absolutely, that's what it is. It isn't the problem with the way the law was crafted, but it's in the implementation, and the human element comes in, and the issue of being able to induce people to do certain things which run counter to why the cabotage law was put in place at all.
For a long time, it was difficult for local shipping firms to be involved in crude oil affreightment because of the FOB trade terms the government entered into with the foreign buyers of crude oil. Industry stakeholders have been calling for the change of the agreement to the cost insurance and freight. What are the main issues here, since capacities no longer seems to be an issue, or is it still an issue?
Capacity was never an issue. The problem that we had in the beginning was somehow they started off by selling our oil, crude oil, on a free on board basis. So you sell the crude oil, and then the owner of the cargo will now specify what vessel he likes, and that vessel then comes and picks the crude oil and takes it to foreign refineries. Quite apart from the issue of the benefits to be achieved in the crude oil trade, we really ought to seek to add value to our trade in general. Oil trade, export of our agricultural products, we need to add maximum value, because by adding value, you are creating job opportunities in the economy. So with regards to the crude business, there was absolutely no reason why we couldn't sell the crude on a cost and freight basis, because the same skills that you require to run a small vessel, a small 5,000-ton vessels, is the same skill that you require to run a huge super tanker. In actual fact, there are economies in these things. You carry the same number of crews, maybe about 23 people. The small vessel, the 5,000-ton vessel, carries about 23 people. The 100,000, 150,000-ton tanker carries the same number of people. And the navigational skills that you require to navigate locally is exactly the same. So there was absolutely no reason why we would subscribe to that illusion that we couldn't carry our crew to foreign climes. The only problem that we had again was provisions that were inserted into the contracts, which allowed that the NNPC could actually change from the FOB contract to the CIF, subject to